This is Under Review. I'm Jordan Long. The MVP race is heating up in the NBA with a little over 3 weeks left in the NBA season. Now, all these stats that I'm about to share with you are going into today's games. Of course, it looked like Ja Morant was gunning for it, but he has really cooled off. He is averaging 27.6 points per game. Now, Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors was also in the running. Steph hasn't been mentioned, even though that his stats are actually pretty good when he is averaging 25.5 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. So that's Steph Curry's stats. But the thing is, Curry suffered a sprained left foot ligament, and that could end his regular season. That injury really takes him out of the running, even though that his stats are great. There are three players that are on top of the race: Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. We'll start with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's always in the MVP conversation. In fact, he took home the MVP in 2019 and 2020. The Bucks, his team that he plays for, are actually pretty good. They're 44-26, second in the Eastern Conference. This season, though, Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 29.8 points per game. That's second in the NBA only to Joel Embiid. Giannis Antetokounmpo is fifth in the NBA in rebounds, averaging 11.5 boards, which are rebounds, per game. Now, don't get me wrong, Giannis Antetokounmpo is having a great year. He should be one of the guys in the MVP chatter. Giannis Antetokounmpo has also totaled 39 double-doubles and 4 triple-doubles. Giannis Antetokounmpo has also appeared in 59 games this year. The problem is, I can't put him as my MVP this year. Why? Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo has two other guys he counts on, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Chris Middleton is helping out Giannis Antetokounmpo by scoring 20.5 points per game. Drew Holiday adds 18.5 points per game. He has the help, and that could take him out of winning the MVP. Don't get me wrong, Giannis Antetokounmpo should be up there. I just wouldn't have him as my MVP this year. Now, Joel Embiid has been talked about in this year's MVP race pretty much all year with Nikola Jokic. Embiid was second to Nikola Jokic in the MVP voting last season. Now, Embiid leads the league in scoring as he's averaging 30 points per game. That's phenomenal, but the fact is he can also rebound with 11.3 rebounds per game. Embiid has 35 double-doubles and 2 triple-doubles per game. Also, though, Embiid has help on the offensive side of the ball. He has James Harden. Harden is an all-star, and he puts up 22.6 points per game. Harden also has 36 double-doubles and 10 triple-doubles. Of course, most of this was in Brooklyn. Now the 76ers are 42-26, third in the Eastern Conference. Not bad, but Embiid has been in less games than Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic. His total is at 57. Giannis Antetokounmpo should be ahead of him since he's played more games. As for the last guy, Nikola Jokic, to me, he's the MVP. Yes, he won it last year, but he's playing at a very high level for the Denver Nuggets. They have needed it, so Denver has needed Nikola Jokic. Now, he's missing his two best players, and they're out with injuries in Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. Now, you did have Michael Porter Jr. a little bit this year, but it was only 9 games, so really not that long. Jamal Murray, he's out with an ACL tear, and he might be back this year. Jokic has appeared in more games than Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. Jokic has played 64 games, the most out of all these MVP candidates, which include Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. Now, when it comes to scoring, he isn't putting up the points like Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's averaging 26.1 points per game. Now, Jokic, though, is doing it by rebounding. He's second in rebounds averaging 13.7 rebounds per game, more than Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. Assist-wise, he averages 8.1 assists per game. Now, he leads the league in double-doubles and triple-doubles. That's the stat that says, hey, he is the MVP. Jokic has 58 double-doubles and 18 triple-doubles. I would say right now, Nikola Jokic is the best center in the NBA because of the numbers he has put up. Now, if you look at his supporting cast, nobody's averaging 20 points. Basically, it's just him. Nobody's averaging 20 points per game. Will Barton is at 14.7 points per game. That's the second leading scorer behind Nikola Jokic on the Denver Nuggets. After that, it's Aaron Gordon at 14.4 points per game, and Monte Morris is at 13 points per game. Basically, what I'm saying is Nikola Jokic is carrying the Denver Nuggets, even though they are 42-29, which is 6th in the Western Conference. Now, if you take Jokic off of this team, I'm not sure they're a playoff team. Minnesota, both LA Clippers and the LA Lakers, as well as the New Orleans Pelicans, are a better team without the Nuggets having Nikola Jokic. Denver isn't even close to a 500 team without Jokic or a playoff team. I am also saying the fact that Jokic doesn't have a supporting cast right now, he is the MVP. Of course, there's still around 3 weeks of basketball left to be played in the NBA's regular season. Now, the Nuggets do not play the Bucks or the 76ers the rest of the way. So basically, you're looking at it that there's still 3 weeks left, and that will decide the NBA's MVP, but the Nuggets do not play the 76ers or the Milwaukee Bucks. For the 76ers and the Bucks, they play each other one more time, March 29th. Now, the game between Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo could go a long way to decide who the MVP is of the NBA's regular season. For the Nuggets, though, Jokic just has to keep playing the way he is playing. It really feels like the MVP is for him, and he could lose it, but you never know. I think right now, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid are not ahead of Nikola Jokic. Right now, Nikola Jokic should win it. So my MVP this year, if you're asking me right now, it goes Jokic 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo 2, and Joel Embiid number 3. Now, I'm wondering who your MVP is for the NBA's regular season. Write in the comments who you think you would pick for the NBA's MVP. Now, we're going to stay in the NBA with the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets received some good news on point guard Jamal Murray. Now, Jamal Murray hasn't played a single game since he tore his ACL last year, which happened on April 12th against the Golden State Warriors. Now, he had surgery to repair it. Of course, the Nuggets missed his presence in the postseason last year, and they knocked off Portland in 6 games. Now, if they had Jamal Murray, maybe that's a 5-game series. In the second round, though, they got swept by the Phoenix Suns. Could he have made a difference in that series? Who knows? But I do think the Nuggets win at least one game. If the fact that Jamal Murray was healthy, they might have won one game against the Phoenix Suns. A healthy Murray may have made a difference against the Suns, but we will never know. Now back to this year. The Nuggets were hoping to have Jamal Murray back at some point. They knew it would be around this time, which is at the end of the year, but the fact is they haven't had him yet. They are actually a pretty good team, like I said earlier, because of Nikola Jokic, and they stand at 42-29, 6th in the Western Conference. Of course, they could use Jamal Murray's play to set up the play. He has great court vision and can score. We have seen that through the course of his NBA career. Murray averages 16.3 points and 3.8 assists per game. So the Nuggets are actually pretty good right now, even without Jamal Murray. Yes, they're in the 6th seed, but that's still pretty good. So the last I heard on Jamal Murray, that it was 50-50 for him to come back and play for the Denver Nuggets this year. But this week, the Nuggets decided to send Jamal Murray to the G League. And the Nuggets G League affiliate is the Grand Rapids Gold. Now, the Nuggets aren't really practicing only because there's really not a lot of time left in the NBA season, and the Gold actually are going to practice. So this will give him a chance to see where Murray is physically. If he does well in practice with the Grand Rapids Gold, then the Nuggets can play him in games. Once he comes back, though, and I've said this before, don't expect the Murray of last year. The reason why is he hasn't played a game since tearing his ACL. If he's able to play, and I know I've said this before, limit his minutes in the first few games. That will give him a chance to play and get used to the NBA game again. Now, practicing with the Grand Rapids Gold is great, but these guys are not NBA players. They have NBA talent, but they have not played. Some of these players haven't played an NBA game. So you're looking at it, yes, he's going to practice with NBA talented players, but not necessarily NBA players. The Nuggets, though, they know that he will be practicing. And if you look at it, the Grand Rapids Gold will probably even go half speed in practice. The Nuggets, though, will do what is best for the team. They know they need Jamal Murray. That will really help Jokic out. He doesn't have to be the scorer on the Nuggets like he has been to carry this team. That is Nikola Jokic, because he would have the help with Jamal Murray. Now Murray will set up the play and tell his teammates where to go. And that's basically what has been missing. There's no leader out on the court. Defenders just can't key on Jokic, but Murray as well. It will be up to Murray to see where he is physically. If he is healthy, that will give a boost to the Denver Nuggets. Hopefully for the stretch run, they will have Jamal Murray back, and hopefully for the playoffs. Now, if they do get to the playoffs, I'm thinking they might win one series with a healthy Jamal Murray, but who knows if they'll have Michael Porter Jr. as well. Now, if they do, they could win one or two series. This is a team you don't want to face because they are getting healthy. The Nuggets will have to wait and see how Jamal Murray does in the G League. And I'm wondering if Michael Porter Jr. is also going to go down to the G League. I haven't heard much news on him, but let's just say Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are there. That will really help to see where they are physically and then be called up to the Denver Nuggets because they could really use it. Now, if Jamal Murray passes that test with the Grand Rapids Gold, we will have to see if he will play at least a few games before the playoffs. But that is still a wait-and-see situation. But the Nuggets know they might have Jamal Murray back at some point. Going on to Major League Baseball, it is back as they're going to play a shortened spring training. The Grapefruit League is in Florida, while the Cactus League is in Arizona. The Rockies made a move they thought would improve their hitting. If you go back to last year, Colorado hit .249, which was 8th in all of baseball. That isn't bad for the Colorado Rockies. The area they struggled in was home runs. It's perplexing because their home ballpark is a hitter's park. The Rockies home ballpark is Coors Field. The Rockies totaled 182 home runs, 21st in all of baseball. Okay, the Rockies wanted to add another bat to the lineup. Of course, you couldn't do that for a while because of the lockout. And if you'll remember, the MLB lockout started on December 2nd, 2021, and lasted until March 10th, 2022. Now, once the lockout was lifted, free agency could start up again. And there was one name the Rockies wanted to go after, and that was Kris Bryant, who agreed to a 7-year contract, paying him $182 million. If you divide that, it's $26 million a year. I can't believe they spent this money, but Bryant is an all-star and won a World Series with the Chicago Cubs in 2016 when they beat the Cleveland Indians in 7 games. Of course, the Indians are now the Guardians. For that, though, it was the Cubs' first World Series win since 1908 and actually ended the curse of the Billy Goat. Last year, the Rockies traded Nolan Arenado. Now, I talked about what the Rockies received last year and how they're doing on my show. And the fact is, none of these guys have made the majors except for one. And you can watch last week's show to see what I'm talking about. So going back to Kris Bryant. Now, in the end of the course of last week's show, I did say that Nolan Arenado went to St. Louis. The Rockies could have traded with the Chicago Cubs to get a Kris Bryant. But if you look at his offensive numbers, they are pretty darn good. Bryant is a career hitter of .278 with 487 RBIs. He can drive the ball in the gap for doubles and triples. Bryant has 204 doubles and 19 triples in his career. Okay, that tells me that Bryant should help the offense, especially in Coors Field, their home ballpark. Looking at his defense, Bryant can play third base, right and left field, as well as first base. Well, he won't be the first baseman for Colorado. Why? Well, that's covered by CJ Cron. I mean, maybe Bryant could be there if Cron needs a day off, but that is highly unlikely. The Rockies' third baseman is Ryan McMahon, so he's not going to play the infield. So where can he go? Well, Bryant can play left and right field. Right field, though, is covered. It is covered by Charlie Blackmon. So Charlie Blackmon is the Rockies' right fielder. So that leaves him going to left field. That helps. But if you look at it, left field is covered by Raimel Tapia. So the question is, where will Raimel Tapia go? Well, he can play center because he's been placed there for 37 games. It may work. The Rockies, 2 of the 3 players are all-stars. You're looking at Charlie Blackmon and Kris Bryant. That doesn't seem so bad. Okay, from that standpoint, it will help. His numbers will be an improvement for the Rockies in a hitter's ballpark. The thing I don't understand is, why do the Rockies spend money on one hitter? They usually don't go out and make a splash in free agency. Colorado sits back while other teams agree to contracts with other fielders or pitchers. The other problem is, why would Kris Bryant want to come to Colorado? Yes, it's a long-term deal, but the thing is, the Rockies aren't close to winning the National League West. They have never won the division since they've been a franchise, which dates back to 1993. Right now, as we stand today, the San Diego Padres and the LA Dodgers are better. They're going to be on top of the division yet again. Last year, Colorado finished 74 and 87. Now, could Colorado be a little better? Sure, but I don't see them going over 500 as of right now, even with Kris Bryant. The reason is, besides the competition in the division, the Rockies didn't improve their pitching. We know how important pitching is, and if you don't have it, you're not going to go to the postseason or even do that well in the postseason. Now, the San Francisco Giants, that is the San Francisco Giants, won the division last year. The San Diego Padres and the Giants and the LA Dodgers could be fighting for the division. Yeah, I know I said the Giants twice, but the fact of the matter is they're that good. Even though it's really just the San Francisco Giants, San Diego Padres, and the LA Dodgers could be fighting for the division title. It could be that way for a while. Colorado might be looking at the wild card spot if they are lucky. I just feel like this move for Bryant was for upcoming years, not just this year. 7 years is a long time. Colorado could build a winning baseball club around him, but I'm not sure they could win a World Series. But hey, I would like to be proven wrong. The Rockies might become a competitive team with Bryant with one simple answer: pitching. Go out and get pitching. They can have all the offense in the world, but pitching is what makes a team advance in the playoffs. Colorado will need to do something to improve that. If not, they're going to waste years of Kris Bryant with losing seasons. Bryant may ask to be traded just like Nolan Arenado did. That is Nolan Arenado, as well as the fact that they're not even going to re-sign Trevor Story. He left because the fact of the matter is the Rockies are not a winning ball club. What would Colorado do then if Kris Bryant asked for a trade? Well, I don't know. They might actually trade him. For right now, at least Kris Bryant adds another all-star for the Rockies and their fans to watch. He will bring people into the ballpark. Hopefully, Colorado will find a way to be a playoff team with them and at least a few times in the next 7 years. Who knows? Maybe even a World Series title, which really feels like a long shot right now. Now we're going to finish off with the Denver Broncos. Now we know NFL free agency started on Wednesday, and these are the moves that the Broncos did. They agreed to contracts with Randy Gregory and DJ Jones. Of course, they kept Josie Jewell. Gregory looked like he was going to stay in Dallas, but decided, I'm going to Denver because of some language in his contract. The Broncos signed him to a 5-year, $70 million contract. That's $14 million a year. So what do the Broncos get in Randy Gregory? Well, he's a guy who can create pressure and sack the quarterback. at the defensive end position. They needed a guy that could be an edge rusher. Well, they got that in Gregory, who has a total of 16.5 sacks. Even if he doesn't sack the quarterback, he creates pressure, which could mean turnovers. In fact, Gregory has 52 quarterback hits and 8 forced fumbles. In the run defense, he might be able to slow the opponent's run, and he has a total of 74 tackles. For Denver, this was a smart move because they needed an edge rusher. Now, they also added defensive tackle DJ Jones. Now, Denver traded away Shelby Harris, and the Broncos needed an upgrade at the defensive tackle position. A nose guard, and DJ Jones actually fits that bill as he agreed to a 3-year contract with the Broncos. He isn't a guy that will sack the quarterback, but has the ability to do so with 7 in his career, and he can hit the quarterback with 9. He has 9 quarterback hits. Now, the Broncos didn't get him for that, but rather his ability to tackle and stop the run. In his career, Jones totaled 126 tackles. Denver hopes he can stuff the run and improve the run defense. And if you look at last year, the Broncos were 15th in the NFL, giving up 111.3 yards per game. Denver expects Jones will improve that stat. Now, the Broncos did decide to keep one of their own, Josie Jewell. It really came down to, do you want to keep linebacker Josie Jewell or Alexander Johnson? Well, the Broncos decided to go with Jewell. Now, last year, Jewell tore a pectoral muscle on special teams during the Broncos win over Jacksonville in week 2. To me, it didn't make much sense to have one of your top linebackers on special teams. Sure, Jewell can tackle, but so what? He shouldn't have been out there. Anyway, the Broncos decided he was worth coming back. Now, Jewell can play in coverage with 8 passes defended, but he's not really a cover linebacker. He can also create pressure on the quarterbacks with 3.5 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. Now, when it comes to tackling, he has 217 tackles on his resume. The Broncos felt Jewell was part of their plans for this year and next year since they agreed to a 2-year contract. Now, if you look at it, the Broncos still have holes to fill on their team. They need to upgrade the offensive line. On defense, add more depth at the linebacker position as well as defensive backs. They need somebody to cover these receivers. Of course, you need somebody to protect your new quarterback, Russell Wilson. And if you look at it, I would like another linebacker. Yes, they re-signed Josie Jewell, but you need more linebacker help. And the offensive line, again, you have to have someone protect Russell Wilson. If you look at defensive backs, yes, you have Justin Simmons. Yes, you have Patrick Surtain. You need somebody else, though. The fact of the matter is George Paton needs to do something. Sure, you can do it in the NFL draft, but the problem with doing that is the Broncos do not have a first-round pick. Right now, their first selection in the NFL draft is in the second round, 64th overall. So, George Paton, you're going to have to be a little clever if you want to get a pretty good offensive tackle or even some secondary help in the NFL draft since you're 64th overall. We will have to wait and see how general manager George Paton improves this team anymore. So basically, George Paton has to improve the team, and he'll do that, hopefully through the draft and free agency, even though that it doesn't look like he's done in free agency, although it looks like he's done in free agency. I'm Jordan Long. This has been Under Review. Follow me on Twitter at SportsScoop1 and read my blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. This has been a Sideline Sports production.